I'm very proud of my brother George to be able to receive this great recognition that the Pope has bestowed on him, to make him receive this award of the Pius IX knighthood. This is a very distinguished award that is not given to everybody. You must really be of class, and I think George, through the many years, has shown that class to be able to receive this award. Very few has received this recognition. People like Barack Obama and many other distinguished leaders, you can see the caliber of George, that they must have recognized and seen who he is and what he has done, not only for the Vatican, enhancing the relationship and strengthening the relationship between the Vatican and South Africa, but also for the people of South Africa. And I mean, George, to receive this recognition surely says something about him. George is the second youngest of a family of 8. But I remember when George was in the primary school, they had a handwriting competition, and he won the prize for the best handwriting. That was already at the early stage that George showed signs. And when he got to matric, in fact, my father wanted him to go to St. Columbus because I was there myself, but he chose to go to Trafalgar. And there he got some friends, James March, who's recently deceased. James was quite also an activist involved in the political environment. And then George decided to go to Ireland. It was there that George met even Qada Ismail at the University of Dublin. And George interacted with him. I can't tell you what happened because George was then in exile. And he came back. While he was there, he traveled. Then he joined full-time the ANC, and he became the ambassador, visiting places like Russia, the Scandinavian countries, across Europe. He went to take the ANC's course, standing in London through the night in the cold, the snow, to protest at the South African embassy. George then came to Botswana, Angola, he came to Zambia, military training, and working again also still working for the ANC. It was when then he went back and into exile again. From there, he never came because he was not allowed to come back. In fact, at the funeral of my mother, he wasn't around. He wasn't allowed to come into the country. And I remember George sending with another lady who brought a wreath which was placed on my mother's coffin with the ANC colors. Mm-hmm. But we missed him because he was, not there at the time of my mother's funeral. However, George stayed over there, continued his work in the organization. And then prior to 1993, George came on a mission. I didn't know about that. George only told me later on. He came on a mission for the ANC. He then taught at St. Columbus. We were very happy that he was going to stay now. And all of a sudden, George came to me and he said one night, he said, "I've got to leave tonight. I can't even tell the principal who was in charge, but I've got to leave because the security was then had got word of him, and the ANC also told him that he need to get out of the country immediately. So there was no time to talk, to justify why he was here, anything. He said, I just got to leave. No answers for his leaving. George didn't go by by plane. He got across the borders. He was taken out of the country to safe houses and across the border, and from there he went back into Europe again. It was during those times that George continued with his protests. And then in 1994, when Nelson was released, a lot of compatriots came back, and George was one of them, being in exile for almost 27 years. He came back, and then he got a post, I think with Tito Mboweni, a post as the director of Labour. He held that post for about 3 years, and then they promoted him to his appointment as ambassador to United Kingdom. He became deputy ambassador, I think, with Cheryl Carolus. He stayed, I think, there for 4 years, and thereafter, I think, he was given another posting to Germany, and that was in Berlin. There he completed that mission as well, and they moved him to Switzerland. In Switzerland, he was charged actually of 3 other countries. It was Liechtenstein, Switzerland, and Rome, and the Vatican. So George traveled to the Vatican during that time he was in Switzerland. Then, while he was as ambassador in Switzerland, they asked can they open a mission in the Vatican. And then George was called upon to open this mission in Rome. And then he was appointed ambassador to the Vatican. But we need to understand the Vatican as well too. There are 2 sections and people get confused at times. It is the Holy See and the Vatican. The Vatican is the country itself. The Holy See is the spiritual part of the church. But fortunately, it is run by one head, which is the Pope. The Pope is head of the Vatican and is head of the Holy See. George did himself proud, but it was a lot of work that he had to undertake to get the embassy opened. But he was given this task, and which he fulfilled, I think, with distinction. George then continued to work on that. The opening of the embassy took quite a while, but eventually it was opened. With that, it was then they had a direct link for the first time. There was a connection between the South African government and the Holy See or the Vatican. And this placed South Africa at a higher level. But George told me when I spoke to him last night, and he said to me, his mission was not the embassy there or as ambassador is not only for a Catholic community or a certain community. He is there for representing all the peoples of South Africa, promoting peace and justice. And that is where his achievements are. I could see already when I visited him quite a number of times, Joan and I, his achievements, making successes of him, making inroads, meeting people, which was very honorable, to take on this task and having to deal with some of the issues that already, the questions that were asking them about South Africa, and he managed to handle this with in a very good and excellent manner, promoting South Africa, promoting the peoples of South Africa, speaking about the South Africans, not afraid to speak about the apartheid system, the injustices. George did himself proud in the sense that they recognized his abilities. They recognized the qualities that he displayed. And I think that was part of the reason why he got this award to knighthood. But if you look at George's track record, you can see how he moved up in the circles from, we can almost say, from coming from barefoot to school, going to that in those conditions, working himself up over the years, not being afraid to face the challenges of our system at that time in the country, but to be able to say that is not going to keep me down. I'm moving on.
I'm very proud of George as my brother-in-law, and for the achievement that he made when he landed in the Vatican as an ambassador. I remember when he called us and he told us, I think we were the first to know the message, yes, that he had been appointed as ambassador to the Vatican. And then, but we didn't have to tell anybody, we had to keep it under our hat. But it was such a big secret for us. Thank God we managed to keep it safe. And then we were invited to the Vatican to be present at the presentation of his credentials. That was to Pope Benedict at the time. And we were then there. The first time I ever set foot, well, I was fortunate enough to go to the Vatican, because not everybody has that privilege. And we went into his library, or this beautiful room that we were received into. And when I saw the Pope for the first time, I just hit out in a sweat. I thought I'd never in my life ever see a Pope. My hands, my whole body hit out in a sweat. I could just stand and stare. And then when he came to speak with us in the Vatican, with the beautiful carpets, and the walls were all so, it's ancient. Can I say the word ancient? And the colorful walls painted by artists that I would never dreamt of seeing. And here this man came, and George presented us. He took us and presented us to the Pope, Arthur and I, and of course his own children were there.